You wake up, you check your phone, you make coffee without thinking about a single muscle it takes to lift the cup. None of this feels remarkable. It feels like Tuesday. But every single part of that morning routine, your thumbs, your eyes, your ability to plan 5 minutes ahead, is the end product of a process that almost didn't happen. Because the real answer to what if humans never evolved isn't a world of empty cities and silent streets. It's stranger than that. It's a world that still exists, still turns, still teems with life, just without anyone around smart enough to name it. Let's start with the moment everything could have gone differently. Around 6 million years ago, in the forests and grasslands of Africa, a population of ape-like primates split into two branches. One branch eventually became chimpanzees and bonobos. The other branch became us. Paleoanthropologist Donald Johanson, who discovered the famous fossil skeleton known as Lucy in 1974, helped prove that our ancestors were walking upright on two legs long before their brains got any bigger. That's the part people get backwards. You think a bigger brain came first and walking came later. It didn't. Standing up came first. The brain was optional, and for a long time it stayed that way. Now imagine that split going differently. Imagine the branch that became us stayed exactly like the branch that became chimpanzees. No upright walking, no freed-up hands, no tools, just another clever, social, forest-dwelling ape, spending its entire existence exactly the way it started. What would the world actually look like? Quieter for one thing. Evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins has spent decades explaining a concept that applies directly here. Evolution has no goal. It's not building toward intelligence. It's not building toward anything. It's just whatever survives, surviving. Which means there was nothing inevitable about a species developing the ability to ask, what if? Nothing written into the fabric of the universe demanded that a big-brained, tool-using, question-asking creature had to show up eventually. If our branch of the primate family tree had gone extinct, or simply stayed put, biologically speaking, nothing would have replaced us. The forests would still be forests. The savannas would still be savannas, just without a single species standing in them wondering why. Here's where it gets stranger, because you might assume some other animal would have eventually stepped up, taken our place, grown a bigger brain, built a fire, invented the wheel. But paleontologist Simon Conway Morris, who studies the Burgess Shale fossils, a 500-million-year-old snapshot of early animal life, has spent his career arguing something surprising. He believes certain evolutionary outcomes are more likely to repeat than we assume, a concept called convergent evolution, where unrelated species independently evolve similar traits because those traits simply work. Eyes, for example, evolved separately dozens of times across totally different animal lineages, because eyes are just a good idea biologically speaking. But high intelligence, complex language, tool use at our level, those are far rarer. Across the entire 3.8 billion year history of life on Earth, it happened exactly once, one time, one branch. Which means the question isn't really, what would replace us? The question is whether anything would. Think about that for a second. Dolphins are remarkably intelligent. Crows can solve multi-step puzzles. Octopuses can open jars from the inside. But none of them built a wheel, and it's not because they weren't clever enough. It's because intelligence alone isn't the missing ingredient. You need hands that can grip and manipulate. You need a body built for sustained, controlled movement. You need a very specific, very lucky combination of traits stacking on top of each other over millions of years, each one surviving just long enough to pass itself forward. Dolphins never got hands. Crows never got a body built for tool construction at scale. The ingredients for something like human civilization are so specific that they might genuinely be, in the truest sense of the word, a one-time event. So picture the Earth right now in this version where that one branch never happened. Forests still grow. Rivers still carve their paths. The seasons still turn. Herds of animals still migrate across landscapes untouched by roads or cities because there are no roads and there are no cities. No pyramids. no satellites, no agriculture reshaping continents, no dams rerouting rivers, no lights visible from space. Earth, 4.5 billion years old, spinning quietly through a universe with, as far as we currently know, absolutely no one around to notice it's there. That thought should feel unsettling. Astrophysicist Carl Sagan spent much of his career pointing out how strange it is that the universe seems to require conscious observers to even be described as existing, to be measured, questioned, mapped, understood. Without us, none of that stops the universe from existing, but it does stop the universe from being known. There's a difference between a planet that has history and a planet that simply has time passing on it, unrecorded, unremarked, unmattered to by anyone at all. But here's the twist, and it's the part that actually changes how you should feel about your Tuesday morning. If humans never evolved, nothing would be lost, not in any way that could register as loss, because loss requires someone left behind to notice the gap, the way grief requires memory. A world without us wouldn't be tragic. It would just be silent in a way it currently isn't, and it wouldn't know the difference. There would be no sadness in that forest, no cosmic sense that something was missing. The absence of human evolution wouldn't be a wound in the universe. It would simply be one branch of a tree that never grew, indistinguishable from the outside, from any of the countless other branches that also never grew. And that's what should actually stop you mid-scroll, because you exist on the branch that did. Every single ancestor in that 6 million year chain, every hominid species that came before Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, all of them had to survive long enough to pass their genes forward. Paleoanthropologists have identified at least 20 different species in the human family tree, and every single one except ours eventually died out. Every one. We are the last surviving branch of an enormous, mostly extinct tree, and the branch that happened to survive is the one that eventually looked up at the stars and wondered what they were. This is where the what if stops being about an empty world and starts being about you, specifically, because you're not just living on the branch that evolved. You're living at the exact moment where that branch has enough spare processing power to ask questions it doesn't strictly need to survive. No other species that we know of lies awake wondering about branches of primates that went extinct millions of years ago. That specific kind of thinking, abstract, backward-looking, unnecessary for finding food or avoiding predators, might be one of the rarest things biology has ever produced. So the next time your day feels ordinary, small, forgettable, remember what it actually took to get here. Remember that intelligence like yours might be a one-time event in the entire recorded history of a 3.8 billion year old planet. Remember that somewhere on a parallel version of Earth's timeline, that branch never split, and nothing was left behind to mourn it, because there was no one left to mourn. You woke up, you checked your phone, you made coffee without thinking about a single muscle it took to lift the cup. Now you know what it actually took for there to be a you, capable of thinking about it at all.